Hi there. I want to quickly share some speculation I've been doing about Laenor Velaryon, his sons, and his dragon Seasmoke in House of the Dragon. Because, well, fair warning in advance here, I'm going to be giving full spoilers. So either turn back now or don't say I didn't warn you. Full spoilers. Ready? In the source material, Fire and Blood, it's later revealed that Laenor Velaryon actually had a bastard son, Adam Velaryon. He gets legitimized, so it's Adam Velaryon. And it turns out two sons, really, because Adam has a younger brother by 1 year, Alan Velaryon, the Oakenfist. Both are major characters. Adam, the older boy, manages to successfully bond with Laenor's dragon Seasmoke. And I've said he's the Jon Snow figure of this prequel era. Maybe not in scale, but in style, that he's this hidden lost Targaryen bastard who gets revealed, and he rides a dragon, but he's actually a really noble guy, but people are always judging him and second-guessing him because he's a bastard. And if this was a fully narrativized book, he would be a POV chapter unto himself, a POV narrator, that eventually he's rallying and leading armies from Dragonback, that there's rumors that he meets with the Children of the Forest on the Isle of Faces for guidance, so it ties in with the myth arc stuff, with the magic things. He's a pretty big character. Like I've said, that Baela and Rhaena are kind of the Sansa and Arya of this prequel era, in style but not scale. That Baela or Adam, this isn't like a Jon Snow or Arya scale, but like a Theon Greyjoy or Marjorie Tyrell scale. They're reasonably important, and it carries subplots that you couldn't just adapt them out without changing a lot. Now, in the source material, there are unreliable narrators. There's these rival historical accounts. Both the pro-Rhaenyra historian Munkin and the anti-Rhaenyra historian Eustace say these boys were Laenor's sons. They were his bastard sons. But then you have the account of the ribald court jester Mushroom, this debauched dwarf jester who makes up all this clickbait, tabloid lies, these sexually scandalous things that could never have happened, that Mushroom says a lot of stuff that doesn't mean it's true. And what Mushroom claimed in his version was, oh no, they couldn't have been Laenor's bastard sons, because Laenor's gay. That he said that they were really Corlys's bastard sons, Laenor's half-brothers, and he passed them off as Laenor's to avoid the shame of this, which they were said to not just look Valyrian, but look a lot like Laenor, but if they were his half-brothers, they would also look like him, so that's physically, okay, they look similar. But there's a couple of reasons why that never sat well with me. That, first off, Corlys was madly in love with his wife, Rhaenys, and it was out of character for him to have an affair with a girl who was less than half his age at the time. That their mother was, Merilda, was a shipwright's daughter who ran her own merchant fleet. That she was a commoner, but she wasn't a prostitute. She was a well-to-do merchant, and he was out of character. He'd never done it before, since why would he do that? And this has led to counter theories that because Adam is the same age as Jace, roughly, maybe when Jace was born, Corlys realized Laenor will not produce an heir with Rhaenyra, so I need to make some backup sons to inherit Driftmark. That makes even less sense. Because first, he's roughly the same age as Jace. I don't think he could do it in reaction to Jace, and even if he did, yell at Laenor to try to make sons with Rhaenyra. And even if he felt it was physically impossible, his daughter Laena hadn't even had children yet at the time. She was only 22 years old, well within childbearing years. Eventually she had twin daughters Baela and Rhaena, but for all he knew, Laena would have a son. Even then, the Velaryons are big on equal inheritance, because Rhaenys should have inherited under normal succession law. If Laenor can't produce sons with Rhaenyra, then Driftmark would pass to Laena's eldest son or eldest daughter. And that came up in episode 7, where Rhaenys says, give Driftmark to Baela. that it's not like he needed a backup son. That first off, he could have just given it to Baela. On top of that, Baela hadn't been born yet, so for all he knew, Laena would produce a son. So the whole complicated theory of he was making backup sons, that makes less sense to me than that Corlys was having an affair out of character that he'd never done before or since. And I don't believe that either. And I think, there was a lot of talk about this in this fan speculation leading up to season 1 from the book fandom. And it's weird that so many people treat it as fact that, well, Rhaenyra's sons are unambiguously bastards. Laenor's sons are Laenor's alleged bastards are unambiguously must be Corlys's, and they treat it as fact. When this wasn't presented as fact, it's goddamn Mushroom who says that, like, Daemon was sleeping with Alicent and stuff, and all this craziness. That no, you don't trust what Mushroom says. Listen to what you're talking about. And I think a lot of this is just due to bigotry. That for once, we have Corlys Velaryon is a prominent, respected black character who isn't a slave or a mercenary or a pirate, but the wealthiest living man in Westeros and a powerful politician. And some people don't want to have a powerful, respected black nobleman who's with political influence. No, we have to smear that with these spurious allegations of impropriety to go, oh, no, let's take him down a peg. I don't hold with that. But the other issue was that so many people just assumed that logic of Mushroom that, well, he was gay, they couldn't be his sons. Well, thankfully, one or two other channels were talking about this, like Red Team Review and Preston Jacobs, were, I remember their lead up to season 1 were saying, maybe Laenor was bi, or maybe he was experimenting. I'm pretty sure he wasn't bi, but he was maybe experimented a bit, I don't know. That a generation ago, readers would have taken that as fact, whereas today we're like, maybe he was fluid, we don't know. So the reason I'm making this video is something that happened in episode 5. I'm a little behind, but then other Laenor stuff came up in episode 7, so it fits together well. In episode 5, when Rhaenyra and Laenor are walking on the beach and working out, okay, we'll have an open marriage, we will try to do our duty to produce heirs from our union, but we will also continue to have separate relationships with our own romantic partners. That one exchange where Rhaenyra goes, I don't fault you for this, some people are just born with different appetites. And Laenor's response, it wasn't for a lack of trying. That is a very loaded line. And remember, none of this is from, the book doesn't have dialogue in it. That they have Laenor say, the TV writers have him say it wasn't for a lack of trying. And this didn't occur to me immediately, but seeing reviewers, text-based reviewers going over it, saying, think of how much is packed in that he's not just, hey, I'm fresh out of the box gay, but that he was struggling with his sexuality when he was younger, that he was in denial, or he's saying, it took me a while to realize that, and it ties into, well, I'm not gay, and I know a lot of other readers who aren't gay don't think about this, that you don't just decide one day, I've realized I'm gay, that a lot of people are in denial or struggle with it. And, from watching a lot of TV, real-life stories on TV, and I watch a lot of Law & Order, where how many times have you seen the story of the 40-year-old married man to a woman with children who then comes out as gay and says, I wasn't I wasn't planning to live a double life. I tried to fit in. I tried to live the lie. To fit, round peg, square hole. I tried to fit into the trope, and I can't do it anymore. That I was in denial to myself. I wasn't consciously planning to do this. That I think more recently, in the past decade or two of TV, we've seen more expansion on with LGBT people, that you're struggling with your sexuality and coming to terms with it when you're younger. So the idea that they pretty much loaded that in with that line of dialogue, establishing, and that other reviewers who don't know the books picked up on it, that Laenor is saying, I have tried to be with women before. I wasn't for a lack of trying. That I really felt that was setting up that he actually had bastard sons from a prior relationship, that he was trying to be straight. Could they pressure? Oh, he'll grow out of it. Remember when his father, he'll grow out of it. Well, let's show him around to some nice girls. merchant's daughter or something, and he couldn't make it work. That much, well, automatically he's gay, therefore he never even, tried women. It doesn't really hold up. So I really thought after episode 5 that's setting up Adam. What happened in episode 7 is Laenor fakes his death, which doesn't happen in the books. Now, I think they are playing, I'll see how I feel about that they're playing around with unreliable narrator, that if you faked your death, the historians wouldn't know. Which is interesting, and Martin in his books loves fake-out deaths. So that is in keeping with Martin's stuff. Though in the book version, he couldn't have faked his death because he wasn't burned. I mean, he died in the middle of a marketplace. People rushed to get him. There were crowds that saw it from a distance. So, it was his body. We know that. But okay, they're playing around with that. They're playing with the tropes. I don't hate it, but I'll see where they're going with it. The biggest problem that it generates for me is his dragon. That Adam Velaryon needs to bond with Seasmoke. He's a major figure in the war, but dragons only bond with one person at a time. How can he bond with his bastard son if Laenor's still alive? And what I already said in my episode review video is the only solution I can think of is because there's another 6-year time skip. Time skip is 6 years. They'll say Laenor eventually died fighting in the Stepstones, the warrior's death he always wanted, and Carl will come back or something, and Rhaenyra will be upset, and he'll go like, no, in the past 5-6 years, we lived a lifetime of experiences that Laenor wouldn't have traded for anything, that he spent 10 years living a lie, and he didn't live a day in that. And I think that's a real trope, and I know some people, you can't grow old together. There's such a thing as you live 5 years, you pack a lifetime of experience into that, versus living out things. And I know, I've known people who died during the pandemic and they lived so much in their short lives, but I don't want to get into that. But I think you could make that work. The whole, that Laena wanted to die a warrior's death, a dragon rider's death, and they changed that a little from the book version where she just dies in childbed fever. Have Laenor go off and live beautiful adventures, a lifetime of experience crammed into 6 years with Carl, and then die gloriously in battle. That solves everything. It makes this not really that big of a change, but a happier ending for Laenor, while at the same time keeping the plot mechanic that his son needs to inherit his dragon. Now, Federica Baccio over on winteriscoming.net actually independently came up with the same thing. I saw her saying on Twitter, and we responded, maybe Laenor will die in battle after 6 years or something. The season isn't over yet. I don't know. Because the theory that was going around the past few days is maybe they're going to cut Adam Velaryon because he was never really Laenor's bastard anyway, and they'll have Laenor sneak back and claim to be Corlys's. He's going to claim to be his own bastard son. How? Or they'll move it around and claim, he's this bastard of Corlys that just happens to look exactly like the other son. No. That is so contrived. That'll be really bad if they do it that way. And why would he come back from and again, if people are worried, we wanted him to have a happy ending, that is also removing his happy ending by having him come back. The whole point, either scenario, he's not running off forever. So I really don't like that, maybe he'll be Adam Velaryon. So adding on to this video, I don't hold with that he'll definitely be coming back as a replacement for Adam Velaryon. I think they were setting up that Laenor had bastard sons with that dialogue about it wasn't for lack of trying. That was pretty prominent. So don't jump to the conclusion that, they must have cut them. If anything, I think they were setting them up. Or before we go into something as contrived as the other thing of, they must have him as a replacement. There's 3 more episodes. Episode 8 is another time jump. We'll see what they're doing then. The things aren't over yet. And will they have time to introduce all these other characters? Well, they didn't know if season 1 would be a hit or not. This should have been 2 seasons. They merged it into 1 season, and it's pretty good. It needed at least 2 more episodes, but now that it's a hit, I'm pretty sure they're going to slow down the rate of adaptation, and characters who were on the bubble, like Adam Velaryon, Daeron the Daring, Alicent's 4th child, or Nettles, who may or may not have been included had this not been a hit, they're going to slow down and start introducing all these other characters again. But just the thing of, Laenor's gay. He never could have had sons. Maybe he was struggling with his sexuality and experimented in his youth when he was younger, And that line that it wasn't for lack of trying really seemed to support that. So what do all of you think in the comments? I'm trying to address this well, and where do you think things are going with this? And reading into those lines and where things are going with Laenor and what's going to happen to his dragon Seasmoke as needs to bond with someone. So please like, subscribe, and comment. I try to respond to all of them.